Live.
Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. Welcome to this, the 93rd edition of Belizean Affairs. Sitting with me virtually is my cousin, Mr. Leonard Brackett, and Mr. Roody. But tonight, I'm the chairman of the program. With that said, let's go straight to a prayer, followed by our reading.
Tonight, my name is Leonard Brackett, and I'm going to be doing the prayer for tonight. Just take a couple of seconds. Divine loving Father, we come before thy presence once more, asking that thou would continue to have mercy upon us, that thou would continue to bless us, guide us, protect us, be merciful unto us, look after our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren and the rest of our extended family members. We pray that thou mayest continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership. Don't us our trials and tribulations, loving Father. Don't us our hearts and our desires and even our most secret thoughts. Please continue to guide and bless and protect us and give us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, and give us the strength of fortitude and perseverance to endure our difficulties. We pray that thou mayest bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership, and the rest of humanity, wherever they are, regardless of what problem they are enduring. Please be merciful unto us all, I pray thee, for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen.
Good night, sir.
Can you go ahead, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Leonard. Thank you. Again, it's always a pleasure to be in your company. And as like the chairman says, I will do the reading. So I'll start from let's see, John 1, chapter 4, 1 to 10. It says, "Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirit to see whether they are from God.
Amen.
For many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh and from God. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and now is in the world already. Little children, you are from God and have overcome them. For he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. They are from the world, therefore they speak from the world, and and the world listens to them. We are from God. Whoever knows God listens to us. Whoever is not from God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. Beloved,
Amen.
let us love one another, for love is from God, and whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. Anyone who does not love does not know God, because God is love. In this, the love of God was made manifest amongst us, that God sent his only Son into the world so that he might live through him. In this we love. In this is love, not that we have loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the perpetuation, purification from our sins. Beloved, if God so loved us, we also ought to love one another.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
my reading
Amen.
from.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, Akukulo boy. And this a shamrock. We coming down. We run the town. We tired of this claiming from Guatemala. We tired of this fighting with Guatemala. We tired of this claiming from Guatemala. We tired of this fighting with Guatemala. This is a serious problem with the borderline from 1859. Belize we had a treaty signed. It has been disrespectful. They want to take over we water, trespassing in our jungle. They shoot to our soldier. Border to border, Belize and Guatemala. Border to border, we need peace and order. Border to border, Belize and Guatemala. Border to border, we need peace and order. We're tired of this claiming from Guatemala. We're tired of this fighting with Guatemala. We're tired of this claiming from Guatemala. We're tired of this fighting with Guatemala.
Amen.
Welcome back to Belizean Affairs, show number 93.
Welcome, Miss Fitz.
Good night,
Gregory.
everyone.
Good night, Ms. Pitt.
Good
People at
night.
home
Good
and
night.
abroad, welcome back to
Good night,
Belizean
Sharon.
Affairs, show
Good night, sir.
number 93. And I would like to welcome Attorney at Law, Mr. Pitt. Tonight's
Welcome, Miss
topic,
Fitz.
Good night, Belize, at home and abroad, Belizeans, and good night, Mr. Brackett and Mr. Brackett and Mr. Wade.
Okay. Glad to have you.
Thanks for
Okay.
gracing us with your presence again. We know you
Make
can't
us
make it all
feel
the time,
good,
but
man. Make us
we're
feel good.
no, we're extremely happy when we can have you around. So
Treat me like
thank you
the
for
prodigal friend, you know.
huh? Like the what? Like the what?
Prodigal friend.
No. We're glad to see you, Miss Fitz. From the heart. From the heart. Glad to see
Okay.
you.
That's almost like you said. The prodigal friend is like the prodigal son. No, you're past the prodigal son. You're a daughter,
Amen.
and you're not
Okay.
prodigal.
Amen.
Thanks. Make us feel
Amen.
good. Thank you. Gracious.
Amen. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, for also bantering and
Yeah.
enjoying this
oh, that was okay.
special
It's
occasion.
good to have some humor on this platform. People at home and abroad, tonight's topic is, can the Maya communal land rights help Guatemala in their claim of belief at the ICJ? The reason why I am bringing up this topic is because the government of Belize is silent when it comes to the ICJ and the Guatemala claim, as well as being silent on the Maya communal land rights. Before I move forward on it, there is one question that I would like to ask the people at home and abroad. The question is, did the Battle of St. George's Caye have no bearing on Belize? The question I ask is because when you go to battle and you lose, the winner takes the spoil. So then how can all these, what I would call bogus claims, start appearing up to the 1859 treaty? Because then, if Guatemala would lose on default of treaty and wants to use occupation, who is more destined to occupation than the Belizean public? We could have simply put the British aside, forget about them, put Guatemala to the side and answer international law, claim Belize by occupation. And Ms. Fitz, I want to go to you first and then.
Okay, with respect to what you're asking about the Battle of St. George's Key, the Battle of St. George's Key is well documented, and you take it from Spain, which has the history of their defeat. And permit me to say, apart from what is there in the annals archival of Belize's history, eyewitness account, and handed down through the generations, archival accounts from Belize as it then was British Honduras, or the settlement in the bay, or the keymen, or the shoremen, or the baymen, the people of the bay and the interior of Belize, Jamaica, under which we were administered from time to time, the record of the public meeting in Belize where the decision was taken 1st June 1797 to defend rather than evacuate, everything else in between. And then you go to the very diaries of Captain Arturo O'Neill, who was his war historian on his armada, and you have it very, very clear, and you can go into the annals of the historical account in Britain and in Spain. It's as solid as it gets, and I can get into that more by way of what my grandfather at an impromptu oratory in 1946 or so said. If the Battle of St. George's Key was a lie, then the Battle of Blenheim and Waterloo, etc., etc. And he, as a veteran of World War One and Secretary of War for British Honduras in 1945, the Second World War up to 1945, he was very, very clear. Why I say this, sometimes it seems I might answer wrong, but we cannot second guess ourselves. You see, the Battle of St. George's Key was continuously celebrated, honored, and commemorated until about 1946, when from those who would want to claim this very land that God gave to us Belizeans, an unfounded claim surfaced at the same time that it was sought to impugn our very history of the conquest of our people, our decision to defend this land. And the thing is the same. Back then, a man who is not prepared to defend the land should not reap the benefits. In short, though, I know you prefer me to be short, Mr. Brackett and other listeners, and I'll try to be brief. You know what? You're saying occupation, Mr. Brackett. The thing is that Belize is very strong with respect to our country. When you look at prescription, occupation, history, independence, international law, and conquest as a discrete part of that. With respect to, let us focus on conquest. And you might say it's the same as occupation. But what I want to say conquest is that when you go back, the decision to stay and fight and defend this country was taken at the public meeting by the people, including the Flowers Bank 14, of which 12 were black. It wasn't taken by Mother England. And the importance of that is that it was not an imperial decision. So when you talk about legal, historical, moral sanctity of a claim, just like we would say, and with due respect for whoever wants to subscribe to that, God's goodness gave this land to us. We no one here Rome or Jerome, and you know what to read in that. What I want to say by way of we have to have it sharp and clear, the 2020 vision and foresight and hindsight is that Mr. Leonard and other gentlemen, Belizeans, look back and you will see. Well, not look back like to turn a pillar of salt, right? Because we have to go forward in our history, independence, and we cannot be second guessed. But why I say that, when it came a certain time that this notion, which I have always been against about going to any ICJ, came about and it was being where people may get soft so and the leaders of both political sides were joining forces to close the rank. And it seems everybody aligned against Belize. Uh, the thing is that look at it and you will see that they sought to leave out reference to the Battle of St. George's Heath. Ask yourself why they would
Mm-hmm.
seek to leave that out. Ask yourself why, after we have this well established history, the detailed account of its very defeat straight out of the horse's mouth, the Spanish archival references. And remember, although we got British backup and in martial law and all the things that had to do with vigilance, war preparation, war strategy, and we could take just um, one lecture one time and look at even the war strategy in terms of defense with the indigenous Pocono boy, and you will see why though that was effective amongst the cannons and the Merlin, the Tickler, the Towser, the Teaser, the Baymen slats, and the enslaved black people and the free black people and the American Indian. We have this beautiful history. They would want to leave out the Battle of St. George's Heath. So ask yourself, why would anybody seek to undermine our history and take out our very history? They are not your friend. They are not friends of belief. They are enemies of belief, fifth columnists and queens.
Mm-hmm.
And ask yourself again, connect the dots over the short period of history from the mid 1946 or so to now, and you will see that you ask that question, Mr. Brackett, and I will say this, that Mr. Glosson, when he was legally blind, but he still had that vision, he navigated. He could ride the subway in New York with more confidence than people seen when he was at the Braille Institute. And it is that he realized and shared that you have to know which questions to ask. That was a brilliant question to ask, not to second guess ourselves, but for our people to answer it from their intuition, which is the highest form of intellect, that thing which runs through our vein, which university education should just be the gloss. And we need our people with our doctorals and their thesis and so on. But we do not educate people to be disloyal to this country. We must defend our country with our brains and our blood. And just as our people were prepared to way back then. So I don't know if I've over answered the question, but conquest, the Battle of St. George's Heath, is one of our tour de force, our point. And we can say to England, you know what? Uno could try do what uno want with whoever, but uno have one sovereign guarantee at the United Nations, and we they call it in, and that appropriate period is for whenever that unfounded claim raises its head. And Belize is for Belizeans, loyal Belizeans, and the Battle of St. George's Key. That's why a coat of arms. Even the imperial Spaniards, the invading force, they thought they could separate the people in Belize. But back then, the lesson was that they came together despite the differences. Black man, white man, master, slave, free men, key men, shoremen, baymen, rivermen, bushman, woods huntsmen, and
Well,
so on,
well said,
in a
Mrs.
common love for belief. So that Battle of St.
Well,
George's Key, that is what we carry forward with us.
Oh,
well
Mr.
said,
Chairman,
Mrs. Well said.
can,
Yes,
can you
Mr.
can you
Brackett.
can you give me a chance to jump ahead on Mr. Wade?
No,
I
no,
have some,
go ahead,
Yes,
Leonard.
I know,
Go
I know.
ahead.
I
Um,
I
I
was
have
I
something.
was
I have something
coming
that
to
I wanted to
you,
contribute. Yeah, okay. I had something I want
and
to contribute. That was
while
exactly
you
what
are taking, Mr.
it was
Brackett,
talking about.
my question to you,
Wait.
based on
Please.
what Miss Pitt said,
I wanted to stay with the context of what Ms. Smith was presenting. So that's why I was asking you, give me a chance so I can continue on to what she was saying just
go
now.
ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Go ahead.
Um, I have something here that I had just written. Uh, what was it? It was 1 day ago. 1 day ago. I was thinking that maybe I had written it a long time ago, but it's 1 day ago. So let me just go ahead. The following comments were made by Leonard Brackett as part of a Facebook thread by Detra Gillett, one of our foremost researcher in as regards to the Belizean history. Currently, I'm referring to. Her name is Miss Detra Gillett. In United Belizean Grassroots Association, a recently created association for us to air these particular part of our history and the research and information for the public of Belizeans at home and abroad to get enhanced knowledge and awareness as to what is it that justify us having a claim on that piece of territory that we claim as our own heritage. So I just want to continue then on. I said about and the thing that she wrote in the association was about Spanish invaders attempting to dislocate, dislodge St. George's Key and Belize City Baymen on the 15th of September, between the 15th of September 1779 and the 10th of September 1798. I titled the article that I wrote, Belizeans, British Honduras, Right to Nationhood. And I went on to state or to say to Ms. Detra Gillett and Elston Wade, my dear esteemed, learned, venerable brother and sister, and vanguard of Belize, I would like to contribute the following comments. Comment number 1. Guatemala was conquered by Castellanos or Castilians of Spain from the Quiche Mayans. Number 2, Guatemala declared its independence from Spain on the 15th of September 1821 AD. Now these are facts that have already been established, and I am just putting them together now in context of what is it that I'm trying to arrive at. So please bear with me. Number 3, Spain did not recognize the independence of Guatemala until 1863 AD, which is 42 years after Guatemala's independence declaration and separation from the rest of Central America viceroy. Number 4, battles of the saints between England Empire and Spanish Empire and French Empire and Portugal Empire, etc., of 1798 to 1802 AD, which is, when I say the Battle of the Saints, they're referring to St. George's Key, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, St. Dominic, Grenada, etc., etc. Quite a few other places that I didn't want to continue this because I didn't want the essay to get too long. Number 5, Treaty of Versailles, on Battle of the Saints, as referred to above, for agreement on cessation of wars, hostility, and cessation of and cession of territory of 1802. Number 6, Guatemala could not inherit from Spain the territory of British Honduras, Belize, then being occupied and controlled by the Bay people and the British, which Spain didn't control and had lost at the Battle of St. George's Key, 10th of September 1798, which Spain had subsequently ceded to the British at the Paris-Versailles Treaty of 1802, before the time of Guatemala's declared independence of 15th of September 1821, which for all intents and purposes was 19 years, 02 to 21, that would have been 19 years before Guatemala got its independence. Belize had already attained its right to nationhood by conquest and by the decree of the resolution of cessation of hostilities under the Treaty of Versailles between England, Spain, and Portugal. And France as well. I went on to say, number 7, Guatemala proceed after its independence to sign the Anglo-Guatemalan Boundary Treaty of 30th of April 1859 to 1863 AD in pursuit of a stable border or boundaries because of the filibusters' activities Guatemala wanted to control. Item number 8, I went on to say, many decades after, Guatemala now wants to abrogate and eviscerate or invalidate the boundary treaty with the desire to take over the country of Belize with the acquiescence and tacit support of some fifth columnist Belizeans and high government officials and foreign interests. So those 8 items there is basically a summation or a summary, putting into chronological order the events that justify Belize's right to nationhood. And everything else after that is just par for the course, or you'd say brata. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on, Mr. Brackett.
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
Mr. Brackett, you know why I could sit with you and you could school me? Because you see the discipline, you see the focus, right? And I want to say, the one thing I want to stretch like good stretch my books, right?
Uh-huh.
Because we use a colloquial sometimes. They say anything after that, the brata. But remember, what I did get out from what you mentioned, that the prescription, the treaty, the possession, the conquest, and the more than brata, right? More than brata. What come after that?
What?
1981?
Or independence?
21st September 1981. Independence and sovereignty before the United Nations. And with independence, the state guaranteed within the community of nations. You don't just have symbols, your own flag. But do not go back and look back. Remember, I say, I understand what you're doing and it's excellent because you have to present it the way you have so that people understand.
This is only one. This is only.
Focus way. Thank you. But with
Miss
independence
Spitz,
now, you
Miss Spitz,
have something else.
Miss Spitz,
Yes, sir.
one point, please. A point of order. This particular item here that I just read is only one of many dozens of others. All of, when put together, creates a volume of facts to back up our rightful claim and possession of that property. This is only just one
Ah,
little part, but it was done with the intention to show that Guatemala never, throughout the history of its existence, whether as a colony of Spain when it was first conquered from the Mayans, and or whether it was an independent, well, not independent, whether it was a part of the Viceroy, which was afterwards, or whether it after its own independence declaration, Guatemala never had possession of Belize, never had any rights to claim to the territory of Belize. And as of today date, the only reason that they have gone or are taking Belize to the ICJ because they never wanted to go to the court initially because they had no grounds to stand on. And the only reason why they are interested in going to the court now and attempting to make a case out of it is because our knucklehead, incompetent, treacherous leaders currently and farmer are all part of a cabal to dispossess Belizeans, particularly the Negritos then. It is not so much about the other cultures in Belize that they are targeting the agenda of dispossession of the territory. They just hate the idea that Negritos at one point would have had the temerity and the gall to be able to inherit what the British was protecting for all of us. So now that we are a minority, they're happy because they get the Halakte road, they get the road from Viejo, and they have poured in on the roads as well as in other areas of the border to the point where now they have outnumbered us. Demographically, they have been able to gain control of our country even without firing a bullet. They didn't get
but
it
you see,
by
this is the
power.
danger, right? That Belizeans have to understand. You see, you know why I took the time to mention different, you know, American Indian was there, blacks, free blacks, enslaved blacks,
Mhm.
white man, master slave, Buckroman if you call them, etc.
That's what make up our society, and we
Mosquito,
coexist.
because even Dr. Awe has said that the Creole are the indigenous people. But the point I want to make is that we came together 1798 as one people with one common resolve, determination, loyalty to one land, belief,
Mhm.
and despite all the odds, we were victorious. When Belizeans come
Well,
together as
well
one,
said, Mr.
now, when you look at this now, what anybody would want to take over and subdue our people with one of the trick. With the trickery and betrayal
Mhm.
is to divide our people so that, another word, the balkanize. So
Mhm.
that if you go into it, a lot of those people who are claiming to have so-called rights to believe, they have no right to believe. And I will say that loudly and boldly because this is about
Thank you.
defending
Thank you,
Belize as a
Mr.
country and as a whole. And when you have ministers of government that shouldn't even think for themselves, let me put it this way, right? We not then the search for identity or have to define an identity. We galvanize and forge and came through with one Belizean identity from 1798.
On that point of
And we were
identity,
Thank,
voting from
on
1765
that point of
with
identity,
a parliament at the top of parliament of St. George's.
on that point of identity,
thank,
we are now
thank you,
not.
Mr.
We are now. Belize is not no more a Creole country or a Negrito country. The new identity that's been fostered on Belize is not Belizeans anymore as a cohesive group of people, as you have described them and others have described them. The idea now, they want a new identity, which is a Central American Republic of Belize. That is our new identity. And
No, 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 no,
a
no.
lot of things come with
Mr.
that.
Brackett, we
Wait.
have a way. You know what I think is our weakness as a people? Instead of we focus on what we are, we give word. Sometimes you want to expose it because I like one cancer, and that would be your way. You have to expose it and cut it out, excise it, right? The doctor sometimes has to go in invasive and with laser or the instrument
cut it out. Sometimes when people have to chop off their toe, they don't want, but save the country, so you have to expose it. But I'm saying, where we are now, my advice, my counseling, we have to have the brief for belief. Like the man with the 60-second sermon. This is the second sermon brought to you by, remember the Robert Jones or something? And when the man in a 60 seconds, I had a professor who used to say, in a very complex area of law, he said you have to be able to state your case in 60 seconds. To believe right now, we don't have time to go. I understand we have to explain and school and educate. So I have all respect for that, Mr. Brackett. But I'm saying when we go in now into defending our country, right? They have sovereignty, they have one identity, one Belizean people. And you know why I'm saying that? I am hammering that? Because before the ICJ, in front of the ICJ, one of the things that were important, what were crucial, what were mean the life or death, not to one ethnicity of Belizean, because they use certain people to balkanize belief, the divide and the conquer. And they say Mayans must remember what happened by that regime, because there is not anybody when they try claim my country or country. That regime women massacre and take out people. So we want to be real. Make them deal with that. Make them put them in a pipe and smoke it. People
Thank
they
you,
use
thank you,
the call
Mr.
and put them like puppet
Let
because
me,
you know what? It's selfish reason. Shooting yourself in the foot. Because those who are here, it is because you have to come to this shrouded heaven of democracy. But we never have all the, because the ethnic cleansing women they have over there alone to clear.
Ms.
And
Pitts,
I'm saying this.
I
thank
would like
you,
to
thank
address
you,
I would like
Mr.
to address
Okay,
that
Brackett,
60 seconds
we
concept.
have a
Let
minority
Ms.
me,
Ms.
because
Pitts,
believe is
Ms.
so
Pitts,
high. And when
Sharon,
that
this,
cannot that for 5
Sharon,
minutes, don't know the DNA. Don't know the
Sharon,
DNA. Going to
Sha-
Mexico, they come from
before,
Fernando. They will find at the west of the border and north of the border. Then they dance jump to the border and then they play
oh,
all the summer. So because you know
Let her
Caucasian,
finish,
no
Leonard. Let her
yeah,
finish.
yeah,
Let her
yeah,
finish. Yeah, let her finish.
will hear
yeah,
them,
but
will not.
Let her
We
finish.
border don't get pushed east of where it was. The history
oh,
no lie, the culture no lie, the anthropology no lie. And if you want to talk Mayan pyramids, they're all make the journey, it's all make and the science and everything you need, the
uh,
effigies are there, the pyramid
Sharon,
builders and African,
Sharon,
don't be racist to be
Sharon,
racist. We
Sharon,
never got time today. We have time now to hold on to a country name belief and a
okay,
one Belizean identity which exists
good.
and has
Sharon,
thank
pre-existed
you, thank you,
200
Mr.
years and more ago.
Sharon,
Thank
uh,
you, Mr.
you
Let
mentioned,
me,
wait, Mr. Chairman, please. I know we need to move on, but one little point. It's the second or third time I've heard the concept of addressing our educational process to the Belizean public who has had for the odd years of independence and are still being bamboozled that we should be able to cover the damage done in those 40 odd years with a 60 seconds clarification of what is it that will make the difference. It's just not feasible.
No.
In 40, in 40 odd years, how many seconds do we have in 40 odd
Mr.
years?
Brackett,
How many minutes do we
Mr.
have?
Brackett, I
Just a
hear you,
minute.
sir.
Sharon, you had
But
your turn, you
hear
had an
what I said,
opportunity.
right?
Yeah, but you had
Hear
an
what I
opportunity.
said to
Let
you.
somebody else talk. I'm trying to get a point across. Give me an opportunity, please. I'm begging for it. I'm saying to you, the task that is in front of us as Belizeans right now, especially those of us on this side of the barrier who are trying to advocate on behalf of the well-being and survival and sovereignty of our country. We are not adverse to each other. I'm just trying to point out something that is critically important. That is that they had 40 odd years of independence. how much better is our country today than it could have been if everybody were just focusing on delivering the messages that we need to deliver in 60 seconds, a 1 minute sermon or 1 minute explanation of any of the things that ail our country. My problem is that unless the people know what they need to know, there's no way that they can avoid being bamboozled. And that requires education. 60 seconds, which is the equivalent of 1 minute. How many minutes are in an hour? How many minutes are in a day? How many minutes are in a month? How many minutes are in 40 odd years? With all those amount of minutes that we have had in the past, if it was possible to educate we Belizean people and have them rise to the occasion of the level of knowledge required to save ourselves, it would have been done a long time ago, over 40 odd years. It's just not
Mr.
feasible,
Brackett,
is
I
my point.
agree with you, but I agree with you in one sense, but understand what I'm saying when I say 60 seconds, right? What
No,
we had and
personally,
what
I
present
recognize what you're
here.
saying. I'm just rebutting in terms of facing the
No,
reality of the
listen to
task
me
in front
now.
of us.
Listen to
Go
me,
ahead. I'm
please.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Because
Go ahead.
I am not idle when I say 60 seconds, right? Remember, I said there were certain complex matters that you have to be able to have your 60-second brief. And I use that religious matter because if any of us will recall, when that man had his 60-second sermon, and if you have a series of 60 seconds, very focused and to the point, right? Mr. Brackett, let
How
me
many
give you an
Belizeans have done,
example of
Sharon? How many of our
Mr.
Belizean
Brackett,
people
hold on, man.
have done that?
Hold
Give
on,
her a
man. This
break
is
there,
very
Leonard.
important,
Let her
right?
finish,
It's
Leonard.
very
Let her finish.
important, right? We're on the
Let
same
her finish.
page, but let me let you understand something. You say what caught us? You they ask why 60 seconds when those people had all these years. Mr. Brackett, the traitors and fifth columnists and evildoers to this country. You know what was there? Tag me on this, please, Mr. Greg. I was say it, but I don't even like say it. They came and they said, right? I don't even like say it. The Battle of St. George's Key is a myth. How long does it take to say that? You understand what happened? So they came and
Truthfully
said
said,
that the agent, the fifth
truthfully
columnist
said, Miss Page,
agents that came with that agenda from the enemy state. They said that. And they repeated it and repeated it and repeated it till it went into our people, you know, like they plant that cancerous cell, that infection. That be like one COVID thing right now or so where you can't get out, right? Even COVID you come out of. Now, let me offer this, right? My 60-second sermon for Belize, right? Or 60-second brief, the brief for Belize, right? When I listen to what you were saying, Mr. Brackett, and you went through those, you numbered it, right? I just shake my head. And then you said anything after that, the Brackett, you notice why I focused on and said to you? Basically, it's a one word I say in addition. Sovereignty. How long it take me to say that? 3 syllables.
exactly,
Now,
exactly,
looking at
Miss
the
Page.
60-second sermon that I
That
was
is the problem that
suggesting,
we have in the Belize.
That,
People are
it
too
was
that,
simplistic
it was
and they
Miss,
think that
really
Miss,
everything
Miss
is
Page,
on
encompass
simplicity.
if
everything.
I may,
Give me 60
if I
That is
seconds
our
to
may,
say
problem.
this.
These people had
Belize
from
or
1950,
60
from
second
1950
brief
until today
to
date,
save and rescue
to
and
push the
hold on
agenda.
to our country
Are we supposed to
for
take
our
60
people
seconds and demolish that agenda
is
to people that are
history,
uneducated?
Let
Don't
her
know
identity,
what
finish
it is.
there, Leonard.
They
Let
don't
her
know what
finish.
it's about.
sovereignty, clarity,
That's why we are where we are.
spirituality. You hear what I said?
Uh-huh.
History, identity, patrimony, sovereignty, clarity, spirituality.
How many? No, no, no. Let me.
and
No,
then
no,
you can
no.
take
We're on the
that
same.
60
We're on
second
the same team
sermon
and the same side. Let me
and you have
indulge in that.
focus.
And then you could get into the details of it. But that is the thing, the dime where you park it on. And be one brief for Belize. You know, we can hold on to this country without calling any other country's name. Focus on a country or any regime name. What it is that makes us Belizean. What it is. If we go in and we have 60 seconds to summarize history, our identity, with patrimony, with sovereignty, with clarity, with spirituality. And I could hand anybody that and say, you know what? I not did it, but hold on to this. And when you talk, stick to this brief. And that is what our politicians, our diplomats, and our leaders haven't been doing.
Right,
Because they start with
rightfully
the
said,
argument for
Mr.
the other side and they never reach the argument. Not the argument, it's a resolve and it's a
Mr.
stance for Belize. Thank you for your
Mr.
patience,
If I
gentlemen.
may,
But
Thank
I
you.
need
Thank
it.
you.
When I say
Mr.
60
If
seconds,
I
I
may,
mean it, you know. And if
Sorry,
you
sorry,
want
Mr.
to take
Chairman.
60
please,
years to deal with that 60-second brief, focus on it, right?
Mr. If I may,
Focus on it.
and
Give it the
rightfully
blood,
said,
the flesh, but you know what? It is there. That is substance, right? Each of them thing where you could talk about in a kind of 60-second brief, Mr. Brackett,
Let's apply that 60 seconds brief
yes,
to the
Mr.
present
Brackett,
discussion.
that
Each of us take
60-second
60
brief,
seconds.
those
Yes.
that I
Each of us
mentioned,
take
you not
60.
find those in all of what you were saying,
and
and
Sharon,
then
but I could never get you to
somebody like you who are
Sharon, I could never get
disciplined,
you to
right,
stick to
will
60
be
seconds.
able
That's
to
my point.
always
I
from
can
that,
never get
right?
you to stick to 60 seconds to deliver the message that you deliver when you deliver so eloquently. Because it all takes more than 60 seconds, is my point. And there's no way around it or behind it or
if
over
I
it or under
may,
it.
if I may, if
Point
I may,
is one and the
let
same.
me
The
say
Mr.
this.
people are
Brackett,
ignorant of the
if
knowledge
I
that
had
they
a go
need
to
to have.
ICJ, you know what I would do as an attorney for Belize? I would have said, I come with my
Let me
spirituality.
say this
God,
for a
goodness
second.
gave this country to us. I come with my people's history. I come with my Belizean history. I come with my Belizean identity. I come with patrimony. I come with a sovereign country. And I come with clarity.
All those
And I
cases that
wouldn't
we,
budge. I
Sharon,
wouldn't budge.
Thank
And
you,
every time they
Mr.
come
all,
with something,
all those,
that
Thank
does
you.
not keep with all this. That does not keep with that. Why? Why? I will be asking them why. I
Sharon,
would be repeating.
Sharon,
And
in
I
none
would
of,
repeat it and I
Sharon,
would yield the time
Sharon,
to
Sharon,
anybody else and I would park it on that, right? I would
Thank you.
Sharon,
park it on that.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
am
Sharon,
serious.
if you were
I
to
don't want
stick
to
to
stray
60
from
seconds,
that.
wait, Sharon, if you were to stick to 60 seconds,
Mr. Brackett, can
Sometimes
you
we
hear a
talk when we
second?
don't win the case, you
Can
know.
you hear a second?
We lose the case when we try to talk the case too much.
that's why we lose all the cases,
Mr.
which is what my point that I was going to say.
Mr. Can
That's
I
why we
say
lose
this?
all those cases that we have taken to the court because we're not doing
Mr.
homework.
Brackett,
We can't
can
go in
you
there with
hear
the
a
hand in our
second?
pocket and beg for mercy. It doesn't work like
Can
that.
you hear a second, sir?
Yes, sir.
Let
Yes, sir.
me say this.
Sorry.
Let me say this. The reason when I started this show, I brought up the Battle of St. Gladys Field because it is very important. Now, by moving on, based on what the sister said and what you have said and what the past and present government is not doing when it comes to external policy, Mr. Wade, you are living through who has born and grew up in the Southern District. You was an BDF, you was also a police officer. When I listen to the present government speak about the ICJ and going to the ICJ, to me, the way they are doing it is ludicrous. This government can create laws like the Civil Assets and Unexplained Wealth that they can use against the common people. And when they made this law, when they take you to court, you will have to be the one to prove how you obtain your wealth or the possession of your house. So I'm bringing this up because I wanted to know who in their right mind is going to go to the ICJ and does not have in writing any claim as to what the person who is claiming your territory wants. Mr. Wade, let me hear you on that.
First of all, for the record, I was a no to the ICJ, so But on your question there, how are you gonna take somebody to court, and tell that person where they care in a court for, right? You ask any Belizean, the length and breadth of this country, why we did at the ICJ, or what Guatemala they claim from we, what they want from we. They don't got a clue. Not a clue. But we are in court, right? So I'll go a little, because I wanted to show a little on your first question, right? Where Ms. Spitz answered it eloquently. And we fall short, right? Because of the modern day politicians that we have in this country who not respect our sovereignty, who not respect the Battle of St. George's Key, who don't even know that what kind of problems the Belizean gone, the slaves and gone through, so that he or she is where she is today, right? And that could be explained in a wide context. But when I'm in the group, I know for respect the Battle of St. George's Key on the 10th of September. When I'm in the group, because that time you have 3 or 4 politicians who respect, and they were very patriotic. When they're dead and gone, these modern days, and I will say it for the last time, these modern days politicians, some of them have ancestry ties to Guatemala, some has ties to Mexico, right? Who don't really even care about the Battle of St. George's Key. You hear, like Ms. Spitz says, some of them said, I want myth. And they mean what they say, right? They look on the other white society, patriotic people like me, myself, Ms. Spitz, Leonard, you, Gregory, we are very patriotic. Then a modern day politician spitting on my face when they say that. And they spitting on my face when they say we want a new identity. Right? We should look forward for a new identity. They're spitting on my face. Right? Because I know my identity. Right? But anyway, he or she has to live with themselves. Right? And they have to be ashamed of themselves, because these are the same country where have them where they at. They have them to access the greed where they at. And yet, they say the things they say. But I just hope and pray that at the end of the ICJ, back to the ICJ now very quickly, because I am to the point, right? That we Belizean accept, because in court, you could either be a winner or a loser. And when that happens, then come and they lynch all of them who put us in that predicament at the end of the day. And I will not call name, right? But they think they got away. They not got away, because they took us to the ICJ innocently and stupidly. We know many dead for hungry. Why rush us? We know many dead for hungry. Guatemala know me dead at the border with gun. They invade Belize. Why they rush? No. All part and parcel. But like I say, at the end of the day, I hope all those who will be dissatisfied hold those accountable who took us there in the first place. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wade. Well, said, let's go to our first clip.
And welcome back. And we're moving into our first conversation for this morning. As we said, we are continuing different perspectives on the road to the referendum, on whether or not to take the Guatemalan claim to the ICJ. This morning, we're getting a perspective looking at the Mayan community and the Mayan communal lands ruling. We have with us on set history lecturer from the University of Belize, Cesar Ross, and historian Dr. Angel Cal. Good morning and welcome.
Morning.
So I want to start off by hearing, first of all, I know Dr. Cal, you have been speaking about this publicly, about whether or not the recent ruling in the courts about the Mayan communal lands will have any impact on the potential case in ICJ. Let's start there.
Yeah. Just as a caveat, I am not representing anyone.
Yes.
I want to make that very clear. I'm speaking as a historian, professional historian. There are some historical questions that relate directly to Mayan land rights that are very critical to this entire conversation. As we educate ourselves, it is important that these questions be addressed. And these questions are focused on the principle of effective occupation. Question: to what extent did the Spaniards effectively occupy Belize? Whether in all its territory or some of its territory? Second question: to what extent, if any, did Guatemala effectively occupy all or parts of Belize between 1821 and 1859? I think that the answer to those questions are very, very important. And for the sake of our own country, I am saying that the Belize team should sleep with its own eyes. We ought not take what British historians, what Central American historians are saying about these questions. We should have answers. And there are questions related to these topics. I don't want to overextend myself, so I want to be pointed.
Yes.
And say that between 1522, more or less, and 1821, according to archival material, the Spaniards exercised a fair degree of effective occupation in Belize.
Wow.
I'm surprised that you say, wow, you see, this is exactly what I'm saying. To what extent are we prepared to address these questions? Because you can bet that our neighbors to the south are fully prepared. So I am saying we better look at the records. We better look at the archival historical material that tells us that from the early 1530s, the Spaniards issued encomiendas. Visita churches were established in northern and central Belize. The Maya of northern and central Belize were paying taxes. And it's archival material. This is not hearsay. So we better know what we are talking about when we talk about effective occupation. One definition of effective occupation, and this comes from one of the experts, is that if you show evidence of continuous occupation in relation to colonization, fortifications, economic development, or the payment of taxes, on the part of your native population. Those are the kinds of evidence in international law that speak to effective occupation. So I am saying, when I look at the material, and I can give you details in a moment, but that is one. The second part of the question in relation to Guatemala. The Guatemalans, post-1823, declared their native people as citizens. Citizens. So here we are not talking about the Maya claiming land rights for themselves. In other words, the Maya are not saying, along with, let's say, the Petén Maya, let us argue, let us go to the International Court of Justice and argue that we were the occupiers and that we want to form a nation. That will not fly under international law, in part because the international law was made by Europeans. They're not going to allow that kind of thing for indigenous peoples. That has been ruled out. But that's not the argument. The argument is, given that the Guatemalans declared their indigenous people as Guatemalan citizens who were occupying parts of Belize, western Belize, southern Belize, throughout. So how do we deal with that? Are we ready to address these questions if we were to go to the court?
This is a
That guy is trying to educate
No,
uninformed people. The man is trying to educate uninformed people on the basis of his credentials. Go there with that. Carry that somewhere else. We have
no,
Belizean
ladies and gentlemen at home and
Can I
abroad,
say something?
and
Can
to
I
you
say
guys
something?
participating virtually,
Can I say something, please, Mr. Chairman?
go ahead, Ms. Lee. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Brackett, you notice when you say everything else was brought up, and I will tell you something, no? Somebody who I could rely on and was near and dear to me said, there are certain things that we as Belizeans must understand. The enemies listen more than our people. Mr. Brackett, when you said anything else, the brother, I was not just trying to whatever, but you notice what I said. Sovereignty. And for Mr. Brackett, Leonard, I think you're well cognizant. For Mr. Wade and Mr. Greg and other listeners, this is the very thing, right? Why would you? People say, go to court, you got one dispute. Domestic court is different from international court of justice. You know why? Because if one person sue another and you're not go to court, they not have to compel you or subpoena you for go. You know, that's not about giving evidence, but as a party.
Ruling in
You
absentia.
don't go, they could rule against you. The court has jurisdiction, whether you're a citizen or maybe subject matter, the property or so. The importance, the crucial difference with sovereignty and Belizeans at home and abroad, you will see that those who were saying, not pick up the wheel, not go the any ICJ, because we'll get tricked left, right, and center. You will see one letter. I don't want to use any word because I don't have a polite word. Let me focus on defending Belize.
We're still at the ICJ.
Let her finish, Leonard.
Earlier, I heard somebody asking amongst this talk, I think Mr. Wade, it was you, or mentioning people don't know what they going to ICJ with. You know what a politician want to tell you? When the referendum thing was put, it was there, you know, or they made it educate that the insular and maritime territory, well, insular must mean inside and maritime must mean water, and it must mean land and sea. Did they accept any part of Belize? With respect to evil, they were trying to say on both sides of the political fence. Mr. Golson used to say, go to ICJ. I heard
It
people
was a
who were
lie. That was a
supposedly
lie.
right around Mr. Golson saying that. I know Mr. Golson used to say, when Mr. got an ICJ, the God's no want and so on, and this, that, and that, and so on. Right? I don't want to get into the details of it because I don't want to lose directly what I'm saying and the focus. As I said, one of the main things I mentioned in the didn't mention in the 60-second alliteration is dignity. So include that with the clarity and the sovereignty and the patrimony and spirituality. Dignity, sovereignty, patrimony, history, posterity is the other thing. Meaning forever, under God, with the country. When it comes to sovereignty, Mr. Brackett, I believe amongst us here, you were a child prodigy around Mr. Philip Wilson. And because I came after you, I believe that I was the small rat bat with the big ears where they listen, and I had it handed down to me intergenerationally. But I was blessed, or maybe, hopefully, for some reason, I happened to come from that I was able to, I talk, but I am a listener, right? And I could remember some things verbatim, word for word. In short, though, and Mr. Brackett, I believe you can attest to this, the Philip Golson that we were wrong, that we could be wrong. Mr. Golson, if I, Sharon Pitts, or you, Mr. Brackett, or any citizen loyal to Belize came in and said to Mr. Philip or asked of Mr. Golson, Belize is a sovereign country. Do we have to go to a court as a sovereign country? You would say, well, you know what? Because of sovereignty, you're not forced to go to a court. And then if the next question was, if you don't got your country, your independence, your sovereignty, your territory, your national identity, you're a part of the United Nations, would you take that United Nations sovereignty and go back? You came with all your territory intact. Would you go back and surrender this to an arm, a side arm, even if you call a court at the ICJ that will make a determination on what unfounded claim to all your country, and the decision of the ICJ, a sub-arm, a sub-forum, will lead part underneath. When you go to the United Nations, my people, my Belizeans, it's one country, one vote. You're sovereign at that level. The only thing like the UN Security Council, the big five that come out of that post 1945, and you could list them. So you got to then subjugate yourself and say, we're not sure our sovereignty. We want to play smart and we want second guess. And those who are cocksure and confident are telling you, no way we want to lose. I want to say, you know what? No way I want to risk my sovereignty because I expect some feelings and columnists and people whose agenda are not about holding together Belize, and you know them because they will show themselves, they will expose themselves. Sometimes they'll be like the cancer cell, sometimes they'll be like the wood lice in a house, right? Belizean people, we have ptarmigan snake, We have our people, they play hopscotch. marble, when people they play snake and ladders and chess, whilst we diplomats and politicians they play checkers. And I will say some. Let me finish by saying, right. The other thing is when Belize goes to an ICJ and ICJ fines for Belize or fines against Belize because it is binding, you only have clarification, right? So you would have already muddied the waters. You deal with them muddy water, quagmire, deceit, intrigue, disloyalty, everything bad against Belize. When you don't take the killer cure poison and you realize this thing where you take that never to Belize, you think they just pump your stomach and you get it out. When any unfounded country or claim and they claim against your country and they get, you know what we call in law perverse judgment, one way you say you're right, but gosh, when they don't deal with you and they speak his pocket and don't come, who will enforce it?
Mr. Chairman,
ICJ
Mr.
judgment.
Chairman,
You know what I tell you? It's
Greg,
who got to, and
time
Yes,
me.
then
sir.
the country will be
Watch time, okay?
exposed. I will tell you what they lied and did not tell the people. The betrayal was complete. It was complete. You know what they did never tell the people, I believe? But there were people like me saying it. You can go for an opinion to the ICJ without surrendering your sovereignty. If they wanted an opinion from the ICJ and you wanted to use suasion, you never have to go surrender sovereignty. But where were the leaders and the diplomats and the lawyers? And I don't blame the lawyers
Thank
because
you.
I know what people of believe. When they the governor weed and liquor to drink on the dead. But when anybody want to talk about belief, Mr. Brackett, and that's what I've learned that with belief, you have to have the 62nd version because you have to catch your people. And when we have been at public fora, you know, sometimes when I truncate my speech, because I've been able to watch the fifth columnist, those who were born in Belize but their loyalty elsewhere, and those who come to Belize, and things that have been broadcasted from Belize. One time we were at Bishop Sylvester, and I told certain union leaders and some other people, I picked out, I said, I welcome our Caribbean brother who is here in support of us from the Caribbean. But I noticed the presence of somebody in the room, a man in the room who is not necessarily from our friendly neighbor to the north. And I told the union people, I said, you know what? We're broadcasting. The enemy listen more. They heard
Thank you,
more.
Mr.
We people not listen, but the enemy listen
Thank,
more. But you see what we they know?
thank
You
you.
hear
Thank
what we
you,
they know?
Mr.
You see what we they know? Mr. Brackett, you understand why I said sovereignty? And that is the reason. No, you notice when they go with the referendum act, you notice right now then they do something to try to tell people the constitution not good. You notice the constitution have one law.
It's frozen. Our
Well,
stuff is frozen up, Joe.
Thank you, Mr.
very
Thank
educational
you.
there. Thank you.
Right. But as I was saying, I brought this topic because I knew the answer to it. But since the speech was coming, that is why I mentioned about appreciation and I went back to the Battle of St. George's Sea. Because I myself, for one, would not have gone to the ICJ when a country who marks your border is telling you they recognize your independence but not your border, and they are the one who marked the border. That is ludicrous. Why would you go to the ICJ? It does not make any sense. And Mr. Wade, time is up. Important. Let me hear from you.
No, I digested everything Miss Pitt said, and like I say, why we're there. Like I said before, and I stick to this. We shouldn't have been there, right? Um, you know, I think that, and like I say, we're already there, and in court you have to have a winner and a loser, right? So I just hope that our Belizean people, accept, right, and the ones that who does not accept, do what they got to do, because as far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't have been there in the first place. We never did a war. Nobody made a turn we hand for Rochester Court, right? Right, to the ICJ, but we're there. It's a very serious situation, and here the government talking about it, right? I mean, they have their agenda going, right? But like I say, at the end of the day, right, we'll have to pick up the pieces, right? So, and as for the Battle of the St. George's Key, I think that the reason why they are slipping away from that is because of the modern day politicians we have. They do not recognize our sovereignty and our culture, right? You see what they're trying to do with our 10th of September, especially here in the West, right? That something that just played out not too long ago, right? About our 10th of September. And I hope they're taking slowly, these things are being taken away from us with their new agenda in place, new identity. I mean, their new identity in place. Everything, this, like you says, Greg, they always tell on themselves, right? So at the end of the day, we Belizeans in a whole, we are in a lot of problem, serious problem down the road, right? We see what they want to do with migration and amnesty and all that, and everything stuffing down our throat, right? So when they come to that big pot boil over, who will be the loser? I say no more. Back to
Thank
you
you,
there,
Mr.
Mr.
Wade,
Chairman.
Mr. Brackett. Just listening to the tape I played, and the doctor said that Spanish people was there from the 1500s, right? Now, if he's saying that, my question to him would be, the Battle of St. George's Key was in 1798. So if you had those people here and paying taxes, and they were doing all that, how come they never take part in the battle? How come they never support the Spanish that was fighting against us? Come on, man.
Mr.
They need to
Chairman,
come with something
Mr.
better than
Chairman,
that.
have you ever heard about revisionist history, sir? It's usually most
Yes,
effective.
I have, sir.
It's usually most effective on people who are ignorant of the particular history being referred to at that time. In other words, for example, well, okay, sorry. Why they are playing this cock and bull game with us, telling us about history that they think that nobody else know other than them, and therefore they're going to paint it the way they want it to be painted. So you, as an ignorant person, not knowing what they're talking about or having any basis for doubting them because they come well credentialed, doctorate degrees, and this and that and the other. The same thing applies to what you just played just now, as the tape that you played the other day with Mr. Awe, when I tried to point out to you that they were conflating and they were mixing up stuff deliberately because they have a paid agenda.
Welcome back, Sharon.
Sorry,
An
my
agenda.
battery ran out just now, no?
Yeah,
So
figured,
you
yeah,
put on
figured,
the
yeah.
screen and
Yeah.
a break and a recess from hearing me. Go ahead.
They have an agenda for which they are being paid. And they understand their assignments, like the former Prime Minister would say. This gentleman, the two gentlemen that you just played the tape on just now, they are there as facilitators. Remember what the gentleman said, right? got him to come and render opinions and ideas based on his credentials. And while he's more credentialed than myself in the particular subject matter, I know enough about the subject matter to the point of saying to him and to you and anybody else that I just read exactly what he was trying to stipulate as regards to why we have a right to the possession and the claim to our independence country of Belize. That was the purpose of my reading that particular thing that I read earlier. And if anybody was paying attention, or they go back and listen to the program again for a second time for further clarification or elucidation, they will see exactly the context of how that reading that I did fell in place as regards to how the information that you broadcast on any gentleman that says, for example, that in the 1500s, Guatemala had control, effective control of Belize. That's revisionist history. That's bogus to people who know better.
Mr. Brackett, yours was a preemptive strike.
Let me finish, please. To people who know better, they will recognize when they are being had. But to people who don't know better, as regards to our wider mass population, who believe when Mr. Schumann say, believe when Mr. Awe say, believe what this gentleman just said, Mr. Carl, and all the rest of them, they are an appeared agenda process. They know their assignment, they understand their assignments, which is to bamboozle the ignorant masses of Belizean people, because they come well credentials. If I were to debate any of these individuals on the merits and the facts and the contextualization of the chronology of what is it that they're trying to put out of place into place to try and bamboozle people, they wouldn't get away with any crap with me, because I know exactly what part to send and go back. But the average Belizean person that didn't do what I had to do, because I took on a mantle and I have to defend that mantle and what that mantle represents, required for me to have become skilled enough to do that defense. I can't go to know none of these guys now, like they went to the court and lost our court cases because they went to them pocket in their hand without the necessary knowledge and ability to be able to do what was necessary to prevail. We are all being jinxed from the UDP, POP, all the peace we have had, including the former colonial government that are the British that are not involved with our government as much anymore.
Mr.
They're all
Brackett,
against us. And Belizeans have to depend on themselves to save themselves. But how the hell can they save themselves without knowing what they're talking about and be able to argue or counteract or correct or point out to
Mr. Brackett,
with all these degrees and so the telling Kakambu story?
Mr. Brackett, if you recall, we had this conversation about the Mayaland rights, and I mentioned the civil assistance and explained web bill. And I said to you guys on the platform, why can't the government go and remove them, the ones that are squatting, like they do to other Belizeans? Tonight, when I listen to that tape,
these people, Mr.
tonight,
Chairman.
listen to me. Tonight, when I listen to the gentleman, Mr. Carl, I always use the phrase, they're telling on themselves. When he mentioned that Guatemala said that the indigenous people is the citizens and they can use that to say occupation in Belize, you know what he's telling me? Man, you are squatting. So let's not fool ourselves. They
Mr. Carl wants
squat
bamboozled.
birds.
Who wants to be bamboozled?
Plain,
Who knows?
plain,
Who don't know
plain,
otherwise?
plain.
And I believe that's about 99.9% of all Belize people who have not been allowed to get themselves aware of these things. They don't teach it in school. They don't provide no further education. The education that was provided at SGSC under Mr. Awe was totally, deliberately, and malignantly structured to facilitate the same thing that Mr. Kal is preaching and talking about. All these gentlemen are hired guns. That's all they are, hired guns. It's not because they don't know better. They're serving an agenda. When he come with this
Okay,
nonsense,
Mr. Brackett. Let
wait,
me go to
just a
Mr.
minute,
Wade.
Mr.
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 Wade.
Chairman, but give me a chance.
Uh,
When he come, we, when I tape you just broadcast, that's a disservice to our country. I wouldn't even have entertaining that tape. Okay? Because what it's doing is propagating in the mind of
Yeah,
people the possibility that, yes, it could be possible that the Guatemalans had a right and had possession and control, effective, the man used the term effective control of the country.
I'll yield my time to Miss Pitts, because I know she want to say something. So I yield my time to
I have
Miss Pitts.
noted that there are certain times when you have, well, somebody said that you have Central American style political commentaries who will masquerade as historians, right? And the reason you don't burn their books or take them on is that you don't even use yourself or your forum or your time as an outlet. And that illustrates again my point. When you have your brief, stick to your brief about Belize. No, then people have all the energy, all the instructions, but their brief is not for Belize. When Ramphal was here, right? And I will tell you this, right? When Sir Sridat Ramphal was coming to Belize, and remember he was making certain suggestions, and it was as though things would be mentioned and revealed at a certain time. When I was being asked to go, I said, no, my presence, no one did it. When I did go in was when they were seeking to exclude me, when some are seeking to exclude a whole bunch of everyday Belizeans. And when I went up, I was very clear in saying, Barrow and Musa, oh no, I said in English so it could be understood. Please, no, make sure, word to the effect, tell Ramphal first go back to his people of Guyana and suggest to them that they do so and so with respect to Suriname and Venezuela before they come to Belize. You may hear me all kind of thing about me, this, that, tara, till when I'm about BTL, and then people say, what I did, I understood. This man made a writing a book page 360 something about borderless countries. You know, understand what I know? I went to a certain high school, not the brightest picnic, but I gave an illustration with my Lee skills where I could sketch also, and I said that this then they do to Belize, right? Civics, it was civics. Why I'm saying this with Ramphal? I was helped, you know. Certain person who I could rely on said, the first thing I get out of the way, admit the person is a luminary. He's a luminary. But that don't mean that you take away the say. You know, you have experts and so-called people and historians and who revisionist history. They will do it to suit who they want. What you look to as see Belizeans who are consistent in the defense of Belize. I have seen times when you have things abroad and sometimes people look like they left from this beloved country and soil and air, and they cross the border. And when you hear we come back, you know what me tell some people who don't think Belize me represented? When you hear the report and what is presented, those people who are against this country have representation from within
Chairman,
this country, and that is why we say you have fifth columnists and feelings have no interest in Belize, nor safeguarding this country. And one other thing I want to say, notice I have been saying that those so-called thing about the Constitution, the elephant in the room is the ICJ. Then they experiment with a beautiful Constitution because, put it off, moratorium, Mr. Greg, as you say, because
Sharon.
What they want to do is unravel, watch the
Sharon.
coincidence of things. But by
Sharon,
God and
we can
providence,
only
this
go.
country will
We can
continue
only
for
go for 30 seconds
Belizeans
more.
and Belize.
The show is on. Have 30 seconds
Go
more.
ahead, Greg.
We
Go
have to
ahead,
close
Mr.
it off.
Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Wade, I will pass it to you for the closing, sir.
Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's always a pleasure to be, in your company, and thanks to Ms. Sharon Pitts, who always welcome on our platform. She brings vast, knowledge, and she's a patriot, and she's a lover of people and nation, and want to give thanks and praise to all those who tune in to us. And I think we have some text messages there, Leonard or Greg. You think we could hurriedly recognize these people? We have 1 minute or to do that.
No, we're already there. We're beyond the point. We didn't save time for it.
Well, we will,
We need to
acknowledge
close.
them on a different, different way,
I
right? So
already acknowledged most of them. I sent them
okay, thank
emojis
you,
and
and I want to
comments,
say
but I'm
a
going to
pleasant good night.
when I get the chance after the show.
Yes, good.
Can't do that
Let's
right
say a
now.
pleasant good night, and I hope that Belizean home and abroad take away something from our program tonight. Thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Smith.
Thanks for a nice program.
Belize and our people.
Yes, we are for people and nation. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, you ready? 1, 2, 3.